Diochon, please, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Brett Lovelace, for this opportunity to be with you today and share with you some of my research on coaching. So the agenda today, I will briefly introduce myself. Then we are going to discuss the state of affairs in coaching. Then we will try to define what is coaching or maybe what is not coaching, because as we will see, most of the time it's easier to define what is not coaching rather than what it is. And hopefully we'll have some time to explain why some organizations today use coaching and what for. So next slide, please. The third slide with my presentation and my picture. Yes. Next slide. Okay, so as I was briefly introduced, I just want to say that I am an educator and researcher in management. I arrived in the US 3 years ago, coming from France, when my husband was relocated in California. I've been working for the past 10 years on coaching, trying to understand why organizations use coaching. And I have developed a concept around the malleability of coaching, meaning that I understand coaching as a modeling clay that is very flexible, and that is what explains why organizations and people are interested by coaching, because it is so flexible that we can customize it according to our needs. So that was my thesis. That was around this idea of the malleability of coaching. And as Brett said, I try to have a critical approach to every managerial topic. So critical means that I do not develop a normative or prescriptive approach. My research are not on how to best do things, but rather I try to provide an understanding of why of different mechanisms and phenomena around managerial issues. So that's what we call a critical approach, that we question the assumptions, we question what we take for granted and try to see what's behind what we believe. So that's well illustrated by one of the title of a book I co-edited that's called The Dark Side. So I am interested by the dark sides of organizations and the dark sides of coaching. And so as Brett said, I have a Ph.D. in management and a research master in sociology of power. So yeah, so that's for me. And how did I get interested in coaching? So after I graduated from HEC School of Management with a Master of Science in Management, I was working as a communication coordinator for a coaching company. And I was trying to sell coaching, and I was not so good at that. And I left this company with some feelings of strangeness or feelings of manipulation. Like I was a bit manipulated by the coach for whom I was working. And so I decided to try to better understand the coaching activity, the coaching industry, through my research master in sociology of power and then through my PhD. So that's how I was involved in coaching. And I should say that I was also involved in coaching because of this premise that I saw behind coaching as a reconciliation between different objectives of organizations, like performance and also taking care of employees. So I was believing that coaching was the next the new answer to organizations' difficulties and a way to reconcile different incompatible objectives. So that's how I was attracted by coaching. So first professional experience and then some research. So as I told you, I've been studying coaching for the past 10 years as a researcher, not as a coach, not as a coachee. So I think it's this position is a bit specific because not so many researchers are only researchers in the field of coaching are only researchers and not coach. So that's my background and my way to approach coaching. So if you want, we can go to the next slide, and we can start introducing. Okay, why coaching today, and why is it important to talk about coaching? It's important to talk about coaching because it seems to be expanding worldwide. So not only in the US, but in different countries, according to Bracer Consulting Group, who did a study in more than 180 countries. 85 countries would use coaches in their organizations, and 17% of organizations would have a systematic use of coaching for their employees, managers, leaders. And it is said that there are more than 47,000 coaches worldwide. And so coaching means a lot of things. Coaching takes a lot of forms, like executive coaching, internal coaching, coaching skills for managers, and life coaching. So what are these different types? So executive coaching is most of the time refers to coaching that is offered by a third party to the organization, an external coach to a leader or a manager, to somebody with responsibilities. We have to differentiate executive coaching from internal coaching. Internal coaching is coaching provided by an employee from an organization to other employees of his or her same organization. And most of the time, the coach will belong to a different department of the department of the coachee that he or she is coaching. So internal coaching, so I personally work on executive coaching. Internal coaching raises other interesting questions around can you be an effective coach if you if your boss is also the boss of your coachee. So it raises a question of independence, and it really questions this value of the coach as a third party. Because we often say that the value of a coach is to be a third party, so somebody that comes from outside of the organization and can bring a fresh look or can have some neutrality. So behind this ideology of coaching is this idea of the coach is somebody that is neutral, or he or she's neutral, and that's why he's going to add value in the organization. But if the coach belongs to the same organization as his coachee, we can question this possibility of being neutral. Another type of coaching is coaching skills for managers, and it leads to the figure of what we call a manager coach. So that's a manager who is supposed also to be a coach. And this figure for me also raises questions. And so in a previous conference, the title of the conference was Manager Coach, is it a pleonasm or an oxymoron? A pleonasm means that the two terms mean the same thing and are redundant. So it means that the manager is the same as a coach. Or manager coach is an oxymoron. It means that the two words are contradictory. And so I believe that it's very difficult to be both, to have the two hats, and that sometimes the requirement to be a coach or to be a manager are contradictory. But I know that in some organizations, this is what, to be a coach is what is required from managers. But I think it's a very difficult position. And then we also have life coaching, that is coaching paid by coaches, not in the context of an organization. And so for life coaching, there is not this third party in the coaching contract. So how to define coaching? we could say, I think the minimal definition is that coaching is a three-party relationship between a coach, a coachee, and an organization. And intentionally, I do not mention the objective, because different coaches will have different definitions of what is the objective. So for most coaches, the objective will be to improve the performance of the coachee. But for other coaches, it won't be they don't want to use this word performance. So I will just say that coaching is a three-party relationship between a coach, a coachee, and an organization. And that's why it's so interesting to study coaching. It's because they are the three parties, and most of the time, there are conflicts between what each party really wants. And in fact, I have a student who is working on how coaches manage the different agendas of the organization, the coach and the coachee, when there are different disagreements on what the coach is supposed to do. So apparently coaching, if you look at the different websites, if you study the marketing and the commercial offer of coaching seems to be something that is obvious. We will easily understand what it is, but in fact it's not so easy, because of all the different types of coaching that are provided. And in this tree, you can see, so the branches and the leaves represent how coaching is like sold, how we can, the commercial aspect of coaching, how it is sold, and the name that is used on the market, like executive coaching, performance coaching, team coaching, organizational coaching, life coaching, spiritual coaching. And then, so that's the visible aspect. And then there are many different disciplines, many different routes that will shape the type of coaching. So like the background of the coach are very different. Some coming more from like a psychotherapeutic background, other coming from like a business background, some who focus more on psychological issues, some who have more holistic approach. And when I'm looking at this tree, and especially the branches and the leaves, I have to say that the level of maturity of coaching is different from one country to another. And coming from France, I think that coaching is the level of maturity in France is less developed as in the US. So in the US, there are like many categorizations. You either do performance coaching or executive coaching or spiritual coaching. Whereas in France, I think we would just say that we are doing coaching, and the market is less segmented. But yeah, as we can see, there are many different types of coaching, many different names, and also, and this is so because of all the different disciplines and disciplines that are used to provide coaching, and because of the different backgrounds of the coach. And so, next slide, please. And so, why? So we have provided like a panorama of coaching today, and why are organizations using coaching today? Why is it popular? I did a research on the commercial offer of coaching. I was trying to analyze how coaching is sold to their clients, and what really struck me is that coaching was positioned as an answer. So I did a study in France, and the word that was really used in many websites, in many communication documents, was that coaching is the answer to today's organization's needs. Why? Because it's presented as a custom-made helping practice. So that's very different from trainings that is more generic. There is no really customization of this helping practice, whereas coaching is promoted and advertised as a helping practice that will really fit the individual's needs. And I think it's very coherent with the social context today and the underlying values of individualism and self-improvement. So our organization and our society is really values more and more individualism and the possibility to self-improve. That and I think it's very related to the American culture, that if you and this what we call the internal locus of control, like I have power to influence my destiny. I have the power to influence my future. Whereas in other culture, notably in France, we have more what we call an external locus of control, meaning that we believe that what happens to us is not under our control, and that is just fate. But I think because of globalization and the extension of the especially American values in the globe, individualism and self-improvement is really accepted in many countries, in many organizations, where we believe that we can do something to improve ourselves, and it's also our responsibility to improve ourselves. And this is very also coherent with what's called managerialism. So managerialism is this phenomenon that describes how people tend to consider themselves as an organization, as a company, as a firm, as a capital in which they want to invest. So this idea of managerialism means that the economic vocabulary that was used in organization and that was applied to finance in organization is now used by people in relationship to themselves. And so as a consequence, people use coaching because they think that they have a capital that they want to develop and they want to invest. So coaching is a way for them to invest in invest in themselves and develop their human value. And another important, I think, cultural element is the fact that nowadays in our society there is a growing number of services that are outsourced, and so meaning that we use third party to provide services that before were internally produced, like provide baking bread. So now you buy the bread, or you buy the jam, or you buy products that used to be produced inside the home. And so that's called the outsourcing of services. And we can also ask the question for coaching: who were the coaches before we had coaches? Who were the coaches in organizations? So who used to play this role that coaches now fulfill? And I think the answer is probably in the collective, or in the collectives, or in managers, bosses who maybe used to provide this kind of support that now is outsourced outside of the organization. And one of the critiques that is made regarding coaching is that coaching is a way to externalize some functions, like HR functions or managerial functions, outside of the organization, and to ask the coach to do some activities that usually or before were performed by a manager or the HR manager. So I think it's very important to understand coaching. It's very important to understand the cultural context in which it happens and why it works well. It's because it really fits with the culture of our society today. And so once we have explained why coaching seems to be so popular, I would like to provide you with some metaphors of what is coaching and what is not coaching, to help clarify the definition of coaching. So traditionally, coaching is defined as somebody who is going to guide you. His or she is a compass, a co-pilot, a bridge between a situation A and B. Or the coach is also going to help you see a situation in a different way. So he's going to bring some light on a situation. He's also going to help you no matter where you go. So that's the all-terrain image. And in fact, all these images reminds me of the definition or the historical etymology of coaching. So coaching comes from the Hungarian word kochi, and kochi was the word used to describe or to define the car or the support that was used to as a means of transportation for the king of Hungarian in the 16th century. So what is very interesting in these etymological roots is to see that coaching, first and foremost, is a means of transportation from one location to another one. And the coach doesn't know so much where he is going. It's the coachee who knows, so that the client knows where he wants to go, and the coach is just here to help him or her to go from one location to another. And so that's I think that's quite important to understand that the coach can be perceived as a support, as somebody who will be a partner, be a friend to help somebody go from one place to another. And so what is not coaching? So that's the next slide. So coaching should not be here to judge you, or he shouldn't be here like a medium. He doesn't know what's going to happen in the future, or he of course he should not be a guru, or even like a teacher or a trainer. Teacher or trainer, so that it means that usually we think that a teacher or a trainer is somebody who knows for the clients, who knows for the students. But as I already said, the coach he's somebody who is an expert of the process, but not of the content, meaning that he knows how to go from A to B, but he knows how to help you go from A to B, but he himself doesn't know how to go. But he believes, and this is what I discussed before this presentation with Brett Loveless, that the ideology of coaching, that the coach will believe that the client has the answer. It's not the coach who has the answer for the client, but the role of the coach is to help the coachee formulate his or her own answer for him or herself. We can go to the next slide. So that's what will differentiate coaching from other practices like therapy, consulting, mentoring, or training. I already started to mention some differences with training. So in training, you have like a generic knowledge or know-how, and the client or the participant belongs to a group, whereas in coaching, the coachee is alone with his or her coach, so he can benefit from a really individualized relationship, and the help is really customized and focused on the client's problem and his or her issue, that is not so much focused on how to do things, but how to behave. And also, contrasting interesting figure is a mentor. So the mentor, most of the time, is an older role model. He or she belongs to the same organization, so he has a similar experience, whereas the coach may not come from a similar background, may not have a similar experience, but the value will really come from the fact that he is a third party to the organization. So I will go to the next slide, and because I don't have time to cover all the rows. And so this is my last slide. Why and what for is today coaching used? So this slide is a result from one of the studies that I did in a consulting firm, where I interviewed coaches on why they had used coaching. And I think what I would like to point out is that I pointed out here in the horizontal line a difference between people who want to have coaching, whereas people who want to be with a coach. And so if you want to have coaching, and it can also be applied to coaches and how they conceive themselves. Do they conceive that they have, what is more important in coaching is to have tools that you will use in the coaching relationship, or just to be a coach? And so if we apply that to the reasons for clients to use coaching, some people will want to have coaching to really work on the content and improve themselves, or improve their functional aspects of their job. So that's the vertical line, functional aspect related to the job, or more existential aspect related to who they are. And so they want to have a coach, to have coaching to sustain their professional employability, or to increase their self-knowledge. But for some, what is more important is just to be with a coach, meaning to be with somebody who is on their side in an environment that is very competitive. And to be with this coach is an opportunity for them to step back, to do a break in a very stressful day, and to really step back, pause, and reflect on what they are doing, and what they want to do. And also, what I found interesting is that for some of the people, being with a coach was sending a signal to the organization that they wanted to improve themselves, or receiving the signal that they had, as an employee, they had some value, and that's why the organization wanted to invest in them to develop their value. So I've been talking rather fast on this last slide, so I wanted to pause and see if there are some questions that I could answer. I don't know if we have time.
Thank you, Dr. Diochon. We do have a few minutes for questions. If there are any, please present those in the chat box, and Dr. Diochon will answer your questions. Also, if you have any follow-up inquiries with Dr. Diochon regarding her research or her recent book, you can reach her at her email address at pauline.fatien@menlo.edu.
Yes,
there are a couple questions coming in.
So I have a question: the difference between mentoring and coaching. Yes. So basically, I think the difference is that the mentor is somebody who has a similar experience as the mentee, And so the role of the mentor is a little bit to guide or to share his or her experience, to guide the mentee based on his or her experience. And it's like sharing experience. So the mentor will share his experience with the mentee, whereas the coach will don't share anything. He will just help the coachee find his or her own answer by himself. So so if I try to clarify, a mentor theoretically will transfer knowledge, transfer experience, whereas the coach will help the coach will help the coachee to emerge, to have the solution come out or emerge from the coachee. And also we could say that the mentor, as it was written on my slide, has a more informal relationship in the long run, whereas the coach has a negotiated contract, and he or she sees the client in specific period for a specific amount of time, and is paid by the organization. Alors, so I have another question. So do you find the effectiveness of the coaching is directly dependent on the personality trait of the coach with regard to the coachee, meaning a certain personality trait is more favorable for coaching? I would say, I don't know if it's related to the personality trait, but I would say that there are definitely some profiles, coaching and coaches that are more that fit more with the client, because first and foremost, coaching is a relationship. So there has to be a good fit between the client and the coachee. And I am currently working on a research on ethics in coaching. So I've been interviewing 40 coaches in France, and I'm going to do it also in the US and in China to compare ethical issues in these three countries and how coaches manage these ethical dilemmas. And one of the coach recently told me that she cannot accept any type of demand, because sometimes the client will have an issue that resonates too much with his or her own problem, with her own like history, experience, and that she will not be a good coach because she's too close from the issue of the client. And so an important issue is coaching is to work on the transfer and counter transfer, and how I can be an effective coach by being close enough from my client, but not too close. Because if I'm too close, maybe I try to solve my own problem by helping the client to solve his or her problems. So that's the question of the right distance between the client and the coach. So I definitely think that that the ability of the coach to say no, to refuse a contract, is very critical. And I mean, when I do interviews, coaches tell me that when you are a young coach and you need to eat, it's sometimes not easy to refuse a contract, but the ability of the coach to say no, and that's why it's important for a coach to have also other activities and not to do coaching only, to not only rely on the coach, on his or her coaching activity, is critical to help him be financially independent. If you have any other question, I would be happy to try to answer.
Dr. Diochon, where else can our participants read more about your research or listen to you present beyond today?
So on my LinkedIn profile, you have access to different articles that I wrote. Today, I mean, most of my articles are in French. I'm working on articles in English. But they can send me an email, and I will be happy to send them either articles that I wrote in English, because there are some articles, and or to answer the specific question if they have some questions that arise after our session today.
Okay. And before we close, could you just go into a little more detail about your current research project where you're going to be interviewing 40 coaches from France, China, and the United States?
Okay, yeah. So what I'm doing, so I've been, I'm starting to work on this project like 1 year, 2 years ago. So what I'm working on ethical issues in coaching, and so I interview coaches on the nature of the ethical issues that they face in their daily practice, and how they manage these ethical issues. So what I do is that I ask them to tell me, to share with me an experience, a situation where they were faced with an ethical dilemma. And so I ask them why it was an ethical dilemma, and why they consider it was an ethical dilemma, and what were the emotions involved, what they were thinking, and what solution they found. I did 40 interviews with coaches in France, and as I said, I want to replicate this study in the US and in China, to compare, to see how if culture influence the type and the nature of the ethical dilemma that coaching say they are meeting. And because one ethical issue in France may not be perceived as an ethical issue in China or in the US, depending on your culture, I think, and depending also on the legal context. Yeah, so that's one of the studies I'm involved in, and I'm also involved in other studies, as I mentioned with you, Brett, at the beginning of this session. So I'm working on the cultural fit between coaching and the organization in which it's implemented. So with a colleague, we wrote a book chapter in French where we were comparing two organizations and their reactions to coaching. So one was this organization where I did one study for my PhD, was this consulting firm where coaching was implemented and very well received by the senior partners of this company. And another one was more like a factory that was producing steel, a very big factory that is more, the culture is more collective, is less competitive, and coaching was not so well received because it was perceived as not as a way to help you improve, but as a way to help you cope with your difficulties. And I think it's also a difference with the French, and maybe the French and American culture, that coaching in the US tends to be perceived as a fringe benefit, something that goes with a position where you have responsibilities and you need to coaching will help the people who are good to be better, whereas in France it's more perceived as something who will help people who are failing to be just good. So that's another research I'm doing. And another one, I'm working on the development of reflexivity in coaching, and how in coaching training we can help coaches, the participants, to be reflective.
Very good. Well, Dr. Diochon, we really sincerely appreciate your time and all of your amazing guidance and insights in this area of coaching. And we just want to again say thank you very much. This session has been recorded, and we'll be able to share out that recording as well through MillSuite. So look for those links. And this will be part of an ongoing regular webinar series that we'll be hosting within MillSuite. Again,
Okay.
I want to thank you for your time, and if there's no more questions or comments, we'll wrap up for today.
Okay, thank you to every attendees, and I look forward to